Alright guys, so today I'm going to teach you guys how to get the secret nuke in Roblox Murder Royale. You can get this nuke as the murderer and it allows you to blow up the entire server and instantly win. And if you manage to detonate the nuke, you actually get some cool rewards as well. Now, if you were one of the first 50 people to detonate the nuke, you actually managed to get a special UGC item that you could wear in any Roblox game. Unfortunately, that UGC is no longer available, but you can still get yourself the radioactive scanner in Murder Royale. And this is currently one of the rarest guns in the game. I believe there's only around 80 of them so far. And it's honestly a pretty funny gun to use. And yeah, I actually managed to detonate the nuke myself, so today I'm going to give you guys a 3-step guide on how to get the nuke and get yourself the radioactive scanner. Now before we start the guide, let me go ahead and preface some things. First of all, this is really difficult to pull off. You are going to have to be incredibly skilled if you want to get the nuke. This took me literally several hours to pull off, and it was one of the hardest gaming challenges I've ever had on Roblox. Secondly, getting the nuke is going to be very luck based. I'm pretty confident that even the best Murder Royale players are not going to get the nuke every single time. There are just so many different factors that could completely ruin your run, so if you're gonna go for this, be patient, because you're definitely not going to be able to pull it off every single time, even if you're super skilled. And lastly, in order to nuke, you're going to need to be in a public server with a minimum of 30 players. That is the current minimum. It was lowered to 25 players at some point, but it has gone back up to 30. So keep that in mind. You're going to need at least 30 other people in your server. At least for steps 2 and 3, you are going to need to. For step 1, maybe you can get away with it if more players join, but that's not really a risk you want to take. You're just gonna want to go into a 30-player server if you can. So if you do want to do this, don't just hit the play button when you are joining a server. You actually want to go ahead and check the server list and make sure that you are in a populated server. In my personal opinion, I think it should be lowered back down to 25, but what can you do? And unfortunately, during the late hours of the night, there's probably not going to be enough players in any server, so you'll have to do this probably during a certain time of day. Of course, Saturdays probably have the most amount of players, so you know, Saturday is always a pretty good time to nuke. But yeah, just keep the player count in mind. And other than that, we are ready to go. If you guys want some more Murder Royale content, definitely show this video some love. We can make some more Murder Royale content in the future, and we might even do some giveaways in the future. The developer actually gave me a special dev knife called the Raw Star, and he gave me 10 of them. I don't need 10 of them. So yeah, I can definitely give away some of those exclusive Raw Star dev items. It is tradable, so I can give them to you guys. So let me know. Okay, so step 1 to getting the nuke is actually pretty simple. And when I mean simple, I mean it is simple to explain, not necessarily simple to execute. But step 1 of getting the nuke is to win a round, which is pretty self-explanatory. You have to go ahead and win a round of Murder Royale by any means necessary. It doesn't matter how you win. You can win as the sheriff. You could win in a certain bonus round. It doesn't really matter how you get a win. I think when I did my nuke run, I managed to win a game of toss, and then I nuked afterwards. But yeah, step 1 is to simply get yourself a win. Now, by itself, that's not a very difficult step to do. You know, I think a lot of people do manage to get a win eventually. But I think what's annoying about this is that you actually have to do steps 2 and 3 immediately after the round that you won. You have to do all the next steps in the very next round. And if you fail at any point, then you have to start from the very beginning, and you have to get yourself another win. So that's what makes step 1 particularly annoying, is that you're probably gonna have to do it over and over again, and you'll have to get yourself a lot of wins in order to keep attempting the other steps. And this is where a lot of the luck and RNG also comes into play, because that very next round you basically have to deal with the cards that the game deals you. Sometimes you're gonna get a map that is not good for nuking. Sometimes you might just get a bonus round where you can't even nuke, because you have to have sheriffs in the game in order to nuke in the first place. So I'm pretty sure some modes such as helpless and toss, you actually can't get the nuke at all. So if you win a round and then the very next round is a game of helpless, then well, you have to start from step 1 all over again, and that's just bad luck, you know? And of course, there's other luck factors such as where the storm is going and how many players there are. Sometimes players will leave after you get a win and you just won't be able to nuke. Yeah, I told you this was difficult and luck-based. Anyway, once you get a win, we can go ahead and move on to step 2, which is actually unlocking the nuke as the murderer. And this is definitely the most complicated step, so try to follow along here. So after you get a win for step 2, you have to become the murderer. And as the murderer, you have to meet 3 different requirements. Number 1, you have to be holding at least 7 murderer clues as the murderer. Number 2, you have to kill at least 5 sheriffs. And number 3, you have to kill a total of at least 10 players. So let's go ahead and break down all those requirements. Now, when you drop down and start your nuke round, you're going to want to grab as many murderer clues as possible because, of course, you want to become the murderer very early on because there's really not a lot of time in the round to even nuke. So you ideally want to be the first murderer. So you're going to want to grab some murderer clues to increase your chances. If you manage to get some murderer clues before the 10-second countdown starts, you got a pretty good chance of being the murderer. If you get 1 murderer clue at the very start of the round, you have a pretty good chance of becoming the murderer. If you grab 2 murderer clues at the start, you're basically guaranteed to be the first murderer. However, keep in mind that once you become the murderer, you actually lose all of your murderer clues. So after you become the murderer, you have to grab 7 more. So in total, you're probably going to have to grab more than 7 murderer clues because you're going to need some to become the murderer in the first place. And then you also have to grab the 7 that you need in order to unlock the nuke. Again, this is where some RNG can come into play. Sometimes clues just won't spawn where you need them. Try to memorize each map and memorize where clues can spawn. In a majority of maps, bookshelves are your best friend because, you know, each book on bookshelves can become a clue. And of course, you can also get murderer clues by killing other people, which you need to kill quite a few people anyway, so definitely try to kill some people who have murderer clues and you can loot them. And of course, try to avoid sheriff clues at all costs, especially if you are innocent, because if you're the sheriff, then the only way to become the murderer is to not be the sheriff, and the only way to not be the sheriff is to die. Anyway, requirement number 2 is to kill at least 5 sheriffs, so yeah, you can't really avoid the sheriffs for the entire round like you do with, you know, normal Murder Royale wins. You have to go and fight those sheriffs, and you gotta hunt them down. And in order for it to count, you do have to kill them by your knife. You can't let them shoot another player. You can't let them die from sheriff pressure. You have to kill them yourself. So yeah, try to find the person with the gun, listen for gunfire, and hunt those sheriffs down at all costs. If you kill enough players, then sheriffs should get pressure, so, you know, they should show themselves eventually, because they do have to kill you in order to survive, so they should show themselves eventually to be able to kill them. Just listen for those gunshots and use some knife riding to find them quickly. The third requirement is pretty self-explanatory. You have to kill at least 10 people total, so theoretically you can kill 5 sheriffs and only 5 innocents, and you should be fine. Realistically, you're probably going to be killing more innocents in order to loot and stuff, and, you know, try to give some pressure to the sheriff. So you probably are going to end up killing more than 10 total before you get the nuke, just in order to reach the other 2 requirements. You'll probably end up racking 10 kills pretty naturally at that point. But yeah, once you meet all 3 of these requirements, you should unlock the nuke. You'll see a prompt saying that you've unlocked it, and now we can move on to step 3, which is actually detonating the nuke. Alright, so step 3 is detonating the nuke. So let's actually talk about the nuke itself and how it works. Once you have the nuke, you can go ahead and place it anywhere in the map, anywhere you choose. And placing it down does cause a pretty long animation. I believe it's about a 10 to 15 second animation. And during this animation, you are completely vulnerable. Obviously, you can't kill people during the animation, and sheriffs can shoot you. You can cancel the animation to do what you need to do, but you will have to start the animation from the beginning once you start again. So yeah, try to plant the nuke somewhere far away where you won't be shot. Once you have the nuke planted, you can move around again, and it will take 2 minutes to detonate. And once the nuke is planted, innocents will be notified of where the nuke is, and they can defuse it. You're going to want to defend the nuke as much as possible because innocents can go to your nuke and defuse it, and if you defuse it, then the run is over and you have to start from the beginning. If someone does start defusing your nuke, you can kill them to stop their progress. However, the more people that try to defuse your nuke, the less time it will take for the defuse to be successful. So the more people that get to your nuke, the faster it'll defuse. So you really have to defend the nuke. And of course, keep in mind that a sheriff is still active, and if you get shot and die at any point, then your nuke is gone and you have to start from the very beginning. Now, as a general rule of thumb, it's probably best to to place your nuke in a place that innocents cannot reach. Sometimes if you're lucky enough in your map, you can just ride your knife up to like a tree that innocents, you know, typically cannot climb, and the only way to get up there is by knife riding. And yeah, if you're lucky enough to plant the nuke where innocents can't reach it, then all you have to do is survive for 2 minutes and not get shot. You just have to camp, you know? You can see in my clip where I managed to get the nuke, I actually placed the nuke in the complex bathroom. That's a pretty good spot. You know, this is a pretty secluded area. There's only one door where you can actually enter the bathroom, and, you know, I'm guarding that door with my life. And even if people do manage to actually get in the room, then there are plenty of stalls that you can hide in. And, you know, you can hide the nuke in a stall as well. So this is a pretty good spot if you're in the complex map. It's pretty easy to protect the nuke and protect yourself as well. And yeah, if you just manage to do this for 2 minutes, then the nuke detonates and you win. And the radioactive scanner is yours. Again, this is really hard to do, and there is a lot of RNG. Sometimes the map and the storm is just going to prevent you from putting a nuke in a good place. But yeah, that is the full 3-step guide on how to actually plant the nuke. Now, I did give a few tips and tricks here and there, but we could make a whole separate video on tips and tricks on how to, you know, successfully nuke and how to fight the sheriffs and all that stuff. So if you want a more detailed guide with some tips and tricks, you know, let me know. I'll see what I can do. I'm not the best Murder Royale player out there, but I did manage to get the nuke myself, which definitely took a lot of practice and skill. And again, if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know. Maybe I'll do some giveaways in the future. Who knows? Okay, see ya.